Hello, and in this video, we're going to talk about writing linear equations, and we're going to use what will be very popular, if it's not already, the y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So try to remember that, try to memorize that. As a way of review, let's just find the slope. And pause the video, try this. Remember, the equation is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You want to think about what that means. That means subtract the y's on top, subtract the x's on bottom. And so we do 0 minus negative 1 for the y's, and then 4 minus 2 for the x's. And so we get 1 over 2. So the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points is 1 over 2. Which means the y will go up 1 for every 2 that the x goes up. Okay, we can write an equation of a line, and we're going to go back to y equals mx plus b. Now, the big part about y equals mx plus b is knowing what each variable stands for. M is the slope. B is the y-intercept. The other thing that doesn't get talked about too much, but it should, is x and y. X and y are variables. So they stay what they are, but they also always change, right? Because variables could be anything. This is an independent variable. It is x, and we use the dependent variable y. So y stays y, x stays x when you write an equation. So when you write an equation on a line, we're just told this m is negative 2, and the y-intercept is 5, so that means b is 5. So y stays y, m is negative 2, x stays x, and then b is 5. And that is the equation of the line. If you know m and b, you can write an equation of a line. And then, like you've probably done before, but you could use this equation to generate all the points you want. You could pick anything for x, fill it in, and then, or plug it in, and then simplify to find y. Let's read number 3, write an equation of the line with a rise of 3 and a run of 15. Well, we know slope is rise over run. And so if the rise is 3 and the run is 15, then the slope is 3 over 15, which we always like to reduce when we can. So that's 1 over 5. And then y-intercept is 6, so b is equal to 6. We'll just kind of write it like that. Write 6. And so in our equation, y is y, m is 1/5, x is x, and b is 6. And that's the equation of the line. So if you haven't noticed a pattern yet, there is one. When we find an equation of a line, we're going to find slope and then find the y-intercept. It will always come back to these two things when you find an equation of a line. We'll get more complicated with the questions, so you may have to do more work to find slope or do more work to find the y-intercept, but it always comes back to finding slope and then finding the y-intercept. Find m, find b. Okay, so in this case, we're given these 2 points, and we can just count for the slope. So here, if I start at this point, I'm going to count down 3 and then right 2. So my slope, which is rise over run, is negative 3 over 2. And then my y-intercept, I can just count up to it, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is b is equal to 4. So the equation of the line is y is y, m is negative 3 over 2, x is x, and then b is 4. Another thing that comes up is it doesn't matter if it's negative 3 or negative 2, just that the fraction is negative. So it's really just negative 3 over 2. We counted down 3, so I used the negative there. But you could have started at this point and counted up 3 and left 2. In this case, the 3 would be positive and 2 would be negative. And so as long as it's negative 3 over 2, that's good. Also, it's a good idea to check the equation with your graph if it's given to you. So notice that this graph has a line that's going down, so your slope should be negative. Well, we did something right. It hits the y-intercept up here where it's positive, and so the y-intercept is positive, so you probably did something right. Okay, pause the video now if you haven't already and try this one. Here, I'm going to start here to count slope just because I think it's a little easier to see. We count up 3 and over 1. So m is 3 over 1, which is just 3. And then my y-intercept here is 2. Oops, negative 2 down here. So b is negative 2. And my equation y is y, m is 3, x is x, and then b is negative 2. Okay, C and D are tricky. There's a couple ways to think about either a horizontal line or vertical line. The first is look at slope, right? So if I'm here, I'm going up 0 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. And it doesn't really matter how far we go over. But if I go up 0 over 4, my slope is 0. My y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is 5. And so y is y, m is 0, x is x, and then b is 5. Well, 0x, you don't write that. You don't need to tell me you have 0x, just like you don't need to tell me you have 0r or 0p or whatever it may be. So this is just y is equal to 5. And we'll come back to this one after we do D. So on the vertical line, if we think about slope, we can count up however many we want. I'm just going to count up 2. Let's just go 1, 2. Here's a point on the line. And so the slope would be 2, but over 0. So this is, whoops, this is undefined because we cannot divide by 0. That's really having math. It just doesn't make sense to split something into 0 equal parts. So that's kind of troublesome, right? Like how do I do that? Well, I can't do anything with that. So my y equals mx plus b is just toast, basically. And there's no y-intercept, and we can't say the y-intercept is 0. Like b isn't 0 because that would be hitting right here. So let's look at what's happening on this line. Let's look at some coordinates. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This point is negative 4, 0. This point down here, 1, 2, 3, is negative 4, negative 3. We could do like negative 4, negative 4. If we go up here, let's count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'd be negative 4, 8. Okay, so what's the pattern? What do we notice? Well, the y changes in just kind of an arbitrary way, but the x is always negative 4. So we have this x is equal to negative 4. So that is an equation for the line. Now look at the difference. Okay, we have y equals 5 and x equals negative 4. So a horizontal line will always take this form, y is equal to a number. We'll just use the number sign. It's not a hashtag, number sign. And then x is equal to negative 4. This is a vertical line. We'll always take this form. X equals a number. Now, the tricky part about, and you can think, well, great, I can just remember that. Y is horizontal, x is equal to vertical. The hard part about that is look at your y-axis. Your y-axis is vertical. Your x-axis is horizontal. So if you think y equals and x equals and just try to memorize that and horizontal and vertical, it's really easy to get that confused. And so what I recommend each time you see a vertical line or horizontal line is look at the points. So look at these points. What is this point? It is negative 3 and then 5. This point over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 and 5. So what do you see? What's staying the same? Well, y is always 5. Down here, x is always negative 4. Yes, try to memorize it. It's good, but make sure you can use the points to help you when your memory fails you, because it'll happen, right? It happens to me. It'll probably happen to you. Okay, let's look at more examples of writing equations of lines. So we kind of already have done this, but we're going to determine the slope of the line, and then we're going to do some special examples where the y-intercept is given to you as a point. And then we're going to plug in the values to the slope-intercept equation. So you're going to get really good at the slope equation. So try these two on your own. Pause the video. And let's see if we can find the slope. So I'm going to do 9 minus -8, and then 0 minus 3. And I hope I don't make a mistake. It is super easy to make a mistake on the slope formula. So this is 9 minus -8 would be 17, and then over -3. Okay, so that's kind of a funky slope, but that's okay. And then our y-intercept comes from here. So B is 9. And the reason why you know B is 9 is because X is 0. And so that's the y-intercept. If we let's cheat down here and use this graph, that point would be 0, 9 up here. It would be where the graph hits the y-axis. So anytime you see an input of 0, you have your B value already. And so then you can, let's use this pen, y equals y. M is -17/3. Don't write the negative on bottom. It's just bad practice. Write it on top or out front. And then x is x. And then we said 9 was B, or B was 9. Okay, we'll do this next one kind of quickly. So pause it and try it on your own. M is equal to -3 minus -4. And then 0 minus 5. So this would just be 1 over -5. So it's -1/5. And then your B value is right here because the input's 0. So your equation y is y, m is -1/5, x is x, and then -3. Okay, and then actually the rest of these are all just slight tweaks to that, right? So we're just going to try to find a slope, try to find the y-intercept, and we might say it in a different way. So here we're going to change the notation to that function notation with the f. And so we have f of 0 is equal to 5. Well, what does that mean? That means the point 0, 5. This means the point 2, -4. So that's all that means. The input is next to the f, and then this is the output. It's what you get when you plug in 2. Okay, so we can find slope again. So do your y2 minus y1. So we get -4 minus 5 over 2 minus 0. Remember, y's go on top, x's go on bottom. Also, the order doesn't matter as long as it matches up. So because I started with -4 on top, I have to start with 2 on bottom. A good exercise would be to pause the video and switch the order and see if you get the same thing. So this would be -9, excuse me, over 2. And then my B value is right here because the input's 0. So that's my y-intercept. So y is y, negative m is -9/2, x is x, and then B is 5. Remember, y is always y, x is always x when you go to write your equation, because those are the things. Now, like if somebody walks up on the street to you and says, hey, let me see the equation of a line, I want to plug in 3. Well, they can do that. They can know where to plug in 3 for x. Okay, quickly on B, pause the video and try this one first. These give you the points 3, 12, and 0, -8. So that's my B value. I did that kind of out of order, but as soon as I see that x is equal to 0, sweet, I know my B value. And then we can subtract. So -8 minus 12 over 0 minus 3. And so that's -20. Check my signs real quick. Those look good. Over -3. And so y is y. That's changed just to positive. M is 20 over 3. And we like improper fractions. Don't use a decimal. Don't use a mixed number. And then I said our B was -8. Use that improper fraction. Oh, I crossed out that was a 3. Sorry. Crossed right through it. Okay, try those next two equations, and we'll go through them quickly. Here, my slope is up 1 over 2. So m is 1/2. And my B is 1 to -3. So y is y, m is 1/2, x is x, and B is -3. Here my slope is down 1, 2, 3 over 1, negative 1/3. And my B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like. Let me count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. So Y is Y. M is negative 1/3. And B is, or X is X. And then B is 5. And I would practice like saying that to you as well, like I am. Y is Y, B is negative 1/3 X, and or M is negative 1/3, X is X, B is 5. The other thing, just check your line, right? Like, oh, I did something wrong. And so this is why you check. Let's see. And this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. This line doesn't go up very fast, right? It's not quite as steep. So that means the slope is less than 1. Or likely anyway, if it looks not as steep. It's a smaller slope. And so we got 1/2, which is good. And it's positive slopes that's going up, and so that's good over here. Checking your work here. This line looks steep. It's going down pretty fast. And so you think the slope should be more than 1. Well, I wrote negative 1/3. So like if that were true, the line should look more like this because those are really close together. So my mistake was I went down 3 over 1 and I flipped the order. So the Y should be on top. So it should be negative 3 over 1. So that makes my equation Y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. So make sure you always check your work. Make sure the slope's line's going the right direction with the slope, if it's positive or negative. And if it looks like a steep line, the slope should be bigger than 1. And if it's kind of a slow rising line, not as steep, the slope is less than 1. Okay, we are going to come back to this page. So if you want to try those right now, you can, but we'll come back to it. We're going to get to this word problem first because it's something a little bit new. Okay, so it says a recording studio charges an initial fee of $50 to record an album. In studio time, it costs an additional $35 per hour. We want to write an equation. Okay, so what do we want? We want that gives the total cost as a function of time. So we got to find some variables. So what is depending on what? All right, well, your total cost depends on the amount of time you spend in the studio. So let's make total cost Y, because that's the dependent variable, and the time in the studio is going to be X. Oops. So your independent variable, or the input, is the thing you can control. So you can control, in theory, how much time you spend in the studio. And then the cost is going to be determined by the amount of time you spend. Okay, so then what's happening? We have an initial fee. Any initial value is going to represent the y-intercept. And this is a rate, $35 per hour. So the rate is going to represent the slope. So initial value deals with y-intercept, rate deals with slope. And let's make sure you can see that a little better. Okay, so that gives me my equation. Y is Y, M is 35, X is X, and then B is 50. You could kind of check this and make sure, just put yourself in the studio, right? Like if I spent an hour, how much would it cost me? Well, I spent an hour, then I'd have to pay the $50, and then I have to add 1 times 35. And that matches my equation. X would be 1 times 35 plus 50. And this says find the total cost of recording the album that takes 10 hours of studio time. So here X would be 10. Y equals 35X plus 50. And just plug in 10. And because it's 10, we can probably do this in our head, right? 350 plus 50 is $400. So $400 for the studio time. I haven't been in the studio in a while. I don't know if that's a good deal or not. Okay, let's go back to this practice. So this is all this. None of this is new for the video. So pause the video, try these on your own, and then we'll go quickly through them. Here, this is a horizontal line, but let's look at the points. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is -4, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be 6, 3. So what's staying the same? The y. So y is equal to 3. Here, look at the points. So 2 and then 3. And you can pick 2, 0. You can make another point out. But let's count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be 2, -5. So what's staying the same? The x. The x is equal to 2. Okay, once again, if you haven't yet, pause the video, try these on your own. That's how you learn math, by doing math. So you got to try them. And we'll go through them quickly. So 2 minus -4 over 5 minus 0 gives me a slope of, that would be 6 over 5. And my b value is right there because x is 0. So y is y, m is 6 over 5, x is x, and b is -4. Don't put plus -4. It's just -4. Here, my slope is 2 minus -1 over 0 minus 2. So that would be 3 over -2, or -3/2. And then here is b, because that's where my input's 0. So y is y, m is -3 over 2, x is x, and then b is +2. Remember, it doesn't matter the order you subtract in as long as you start with the same point on top and bottom. And this negative isn't tied to the bottom. You shouldn't write 3 over -2 here. It's just bad notation. The negative should go to the top. It is a -3 over 2. Okay, and then 2 more just with the function notation to try to get used to that. 0, 6, and then 3, 4. And that is tricky. Like, I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do. Function notation is very confusing. But try to see that and hopefully understand it a little bit. And now you're ready to go. Your slope is 4 minus 6 over 3 minus 0. So that's -2 over 3. And your b is right here. B is 6. So y is y, m is -2 over 3, x is x, and then +6. And the last one, same problem, different numbers. -1, -2 is the point. 0, -0, that's weird. It's just 0. So b is 0. And then your slope, this would be a good one to try to do in your head, actually. Maybe just think about the coordinates and plot them in your head and count rise over run. Start with 0, 0 would be the tip there. But it would be 0 minus -2 over, actually, let's flip this up. I always go the same direction, but it makes more sense to start over here. So if we do -2 minus 0, and then -1 minus 0, that would be -2 over -1, which is just 2. Sorry, I kind of ran out of room there. But y is y, m is 2, x is x, and then b is 0. So do not write +0. That's not needed. It's just y is equal to 2x. Okay, good luck with writing equations in y equals mx plus b form. Remember, you're always looking for the slope, which is m, and the y-intercept, which is b. Reach out if you have any questions.